Hey everyone, 95 Fathoms here with a new shiny hunt. I haven't been getting a whole lot of shinies to post lately, which is mostly because my luck hasn't been the best, but I spent a good bit of time hunting in Legends ZA in the weeks following its release. While I've enjoyed hunting in it probably more than any other overworld game, that's not necessarily the highest praise since I'm definitely a random encounter hunter through and through. Generally speaking, I'm less compelled at the thought of sharing videos of the shiny hunts I've been doing in this game or any overworld game, and so I wasn't planning to make any videos from ZA. With that said, I did play through the game with a team of shinies, and although most of those hunts aren't ones I feel driven to highlight, I did phase for one of my targets until I got it as an alpha for a more challenging hunt and a cooler target at the end. And that feels a little more worth sharing to me, though I debated it for long enough that it has been a good while since I completed this hunt now. Nonetheless, I wanted to try to share it with you. The hunting I have done in this game has been done much more casually compared with other games.
It's another Pidgey.
As I said, I wasn't even necessarily planning to make any videos, so I was more recording for my own reference, and as such I didn't always worry about using my best mic or eliminating background noise, and I did very little in-the-moment commentary, so I'm going to have to do most of the heavy lifting here in post. The alpha in question here is Skrelp in the sewers. I did this hunt right after I unlocked the first entrance to the sewers at rank E. Whether the side mission that gives you an alternate entrance to the sewers makes for a more efficient hunting method here, I'm unsure. I can see a world where fast traveling to that entrance could be a more efficient way to reset the spawns, though I haven't tested it myself. But regardless, I didn't have access to it when I did the hunt, and the DLC wasn't out, so none of those methods of encountering Skrelp or Dragalge or boosting their alpha chances existed. My technique for this was just to run around to trigger most of the Skrelp spawns in the sewers, and then run back to despawn them. Theoretically. Even at the end of this hunt, I'm honestly not positive how frequently things were actually despawning. The singular Dragalge, which has a 20% chance to appear in this room, and any alpha Skrelp can follow you a long ways if they aggro on you, and that'll keep them from despawning, at least within the route I was running. The other factor is that the winding sewer tunnels are closer to each other than you would think, often so much so that Pokemon on the other side of a wall are still in spawning radius. This did lead me to question exactly how many new Pokemon I was really seeing on each run of this hunt, but it also led to the inverse, spawning in Pokemon that I wasn't thinking to check initially. As a side note, if you do what I did and stop to hunt here right after you unlock the sewers in the story, you will want to complete the story piece that happens in there before you start hunting. It not only unlocks some new spawns, but it also seems to be what triggers the potential for random alphas. I had been hunting for about a day on this path that passes 9 Skrelp, or 8 Skrelp and 1 Dragalge if you get that 20%, all with a 5% chance of being alpha, when I realized I was hearing the sound of Haunter spawn in at the end of the path here, so I realized I should probably check the other side of the wall. And when I did, I found that something in this other room had somehow shined.
Let me check up here just in case I've somehow gotten close up enough to spawn a shiny.
Honestly, this was one of the better phases I could have gotten since I love the whole Litwick line and Chandelure has a new mega that I love. But it is still very funny to be checking 9 spawns of my target and phase on a single spawn of a species I didn't even know I was spawning in. Phase 2 was actually an adjacent experience of sorts. Not too long after this, I was paying more attention and now realized that at the other end of my route, I was hearing Ghastly spawn in. So I looped around to check the room that, despite being quite a hike away, was apparently in spawn radius. This room actually contains 2 additional Skrelp spawns, and this check resulted in my first non-alpha Skrelp of the hunt. Oh my god! You've got to be kidding me! What? Are you kidding me? As for why I hadn't included this group in my check, as I said, it's quite a hike from the rest of the route. You spend almost as much time as you do running the entire rest of the route just running to loop around to this room for a whopping 2 Skrelp checks, so while I checked it occasionally to make sure it hadn't generated something, I didn't run over there every time, even after discovering that I could be phasing in there. It was at this point in the hunt I decided I wanted to have at least some vague metric to indicate where I was with respect to the odds. So I began counting runs through the sewer, with each run being a trip from point A to point B and not a round trip. but vague metric is definitely applicable here. I actively saw 13 Pokemon per run, 9 Skrelp or Dragalge, and 4 Noibat. But I was also spawning in at least 7 additional Pokemon between the 2 Haunter, 2 Ghastly, 1 Litwick, and 2 additional Skrelp. And simultaneously, I couldn't go far enough past the ends of my route to despawn the things on either end. So some of those were only getting respawned every other run. I was probably seeing between 10 and 15 new Pokemon per run, but who knows. This unreliability of the spawn numbers is one of the many reasons I usually don't count in overworld games. I say all this, however, to preface my third phase, which came after 40 one-way runs, 20 round trips, and was an unexpected but very cool phase to pick up. Shiny Dragalge! What?
Oh my god! Dude! That's crazy!
The wild Dragalge is more common than Alpha Skrelp in the sense that it's a 20% chance versus Alpha Skrelp's 5. But since there's only a single spawner that can produce Dragalge and at least 9, or 11 if you include that side room, that can produce Alpha Skrelp, you have far more opportunities for the Alpha. So this was a neat thing to pick up on the way. Obviously the Alpha Dragalge would have been really cool to find, but the rarity really starts to compound at that point. I will say that the side room does also have a potential to spawn in Dragalge, but I never saw it before I'd beaten the game and discovered the alternate entrance, so I think the Dragalge could technically be more common than it was during this hunt, but I'm fairly certain there was only one potential Dragalge spawn for me. The hunt at this point became fairly predictable. With an average of 20 phases for the Alpha, I figured I was in it for the long haul, so I just worked at cranking out Skrelp phases while hoping I wouldn't pick up any more other species. It was later the same night as these first 3 shinies that I got my next phase, while again double checking this side room with the 2 Skrelp.
Dude, are you kidding me? Another Skrelp in the side room?
Meanwhile, I picked up yet another phase the following day, though my audio was set up wrong so you don't get to hear whatever mediocre reaction I inevitably had to my third Skrelp. I put this hunt on hold for the rest of that day to mix it up a little, but the next day I came back to it and picked up another unexciting phase. Shiny Skrelp.
Okay.
But as I said, this was still way under alpha odds, and I was still picking up my target species, so I was at least making progress, so to speak. By this point in the hunt, I was pretty well set in a muscle memory to grind out all these phases, navigating my route through the sewers using one hand and working on hunts in the older games with my other, which meant I was moving my character but generally not my camera. So the following day, when I got my 7th phase, I heard sparkles before I saw what it was.
Oh my god! Oh my god! Alpha Skrelp! What? Dude! Dude, what?
Obviously the alpha was rare, but I was surprised by how exciting a find this ended up being. Its arrival in fewer than half the expected 20 phases definitely contributed to that, as did the fact that I had quickly assumed it was another phase to check off before I turned the camera. This wasn't the absolute craziest hunt I could have done, and it's probably less exciting to some now that it's much easier to hunt for alphas in the DLC, but for me it was a nice way to make an otherwise fairly quick shiny hunt feel much more satisfying and memorable. And Dragalge is not only probably my favorite new Mega in Legends ZA, but also one of my favorite Kalos Pokemon. I love its typing and its design, and I think its shiny is really clean. It's definitely one I need to go back and hunt in X and Y eventually, but I'm glad I did this hunt. And while you can hunt for it probably more easily as Dragalge in post-game, I'm glad I got to use it in my playthrough and got to hunt in the sewer area, which I think is really cool, particularly with its reminiscence, at least to me, of Glittering Cave between its music and its color palette. As I said, I've enjoyed hunting in this game compared with the other overworld games. Whether I'll record and upload any future ZA hunts though, I'm not entirely sure, since I don't feel the same compulsion to record everything that I feel with older games. Still, I hope you enjoyed this quick and extremely lucky alpha hunt, and I hope to see you with some more hunts in the older games in the near future. In the meantime, thanks so much for watching, and as always, best of luck on all your hunts, and take care.